Good morning, Trump's family. Have a good day and God bless you. Thank you for always watching and subscribing to the channel. Alright, let's get into the news. Marjorie Taylor Greene remains undefeated and a complete savage going after the Biden administration. Of course, the head woman in the Health and Human Services Department there, the fake Admiral Levine, right, the one who used to run the health department and or the health services department in Pennsylvania, who conveniently got his mom out of the nursing homes before they shoved all the COVID patients in there and had thousands of deaths. But yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But Admiral Levine is here to tell you that you got to make sure your kids go get the castrations, a chemical castration and things like that. This administration is absolutely insane. And saying this is a war against the parents across the United States. Democrats absolutely do support this. They support the trans movement and making your kids trans in school. They're supportive to drag queens, talking to your kids about these types of issues. They're supportive of the sexualized talking that happened to small kids. This is the Democrat platform. Don't let anybody else tell you that it is not, because it is. If it wasn't, they wouldn't be using these high departments in order to push chemical castration on children. This is absolutely sick. This administration needs to be completely impeached and removed from office because of their crimes against this country. So what we have here is Marjorie Taylor Greene responding to Admiral Levine's call on parents to allow their kids to be chemically castrated, which would absolutely just impact this kids lives forever. The government is actively encouraging them to do this. We talked about this on the Last American podcast on Saturday night. This last weekend, talking about how the CDC is using methods in order to conceal these types of conversations from parents. This is a government directive. So let's go ahead and dive into what we have here. And this is of course one of our favorite congressional women in Congress. This is from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She said we must do everything we can to prevent Dr. Dick Levine's preteen #WeChop. Now that I think about it, as Dr. Levine advocate for gender-affirming care for minors, has he gone? Do we need CHOP himself? Or is he just pushing this on children? And this is the video that she's referring to? From Dr. Admiral Levine, right? Let's see here, link, grab it. Alright, so this is the video here that she's talking about. This is Dr. Admiral Levine. Right. So let's take a listen. We really wanted to base our treatment and to affirm and to support and empower these youth, not to limit their participation in activities and sports and even limit their ability to get gender affirmation treatment in their state. Okay. Such as chemical castration, and other things that would permanently damage children moving into adulthood. And they are not even talking about, methods for parents to take steps for parents to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't rush to go change Jimmy into Susie. Maybe we should have some more conversations about this, because kids should not be able to choose what they're going to be at such a young age, especially something that will impact them for the rest of their lives. And this is what this administration is currently pushing. So thank you to Marjorie Taylor Greene for standing up for this, but we need more and more representatives. We need more and more parents and more citizens in this country unafraid to stand up for what is right, and what is right is for protecting these kids' lives. And then, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert are going to investigate Hunter. They're going to push for investigations of Hunter, impeachment of Joe, investigations of other bureaucrats. Let's just say who were instrumental in shutting down and ending economic activity, shutting down the U.S. economy. Now there are things that you just can't do without eventually being investigated. Okay. You can't have 150 suspicious banking transactions, 150 financial transactions deemed suspicious by banks throughout the country. That's according to CBS News. I am quoting CBS News. 150 suspicious banking transactions now linked to Hunter, James, and possibly Joe Biden, our wonderful, illustrious president, who's definitely aware and cognizant of everything. Now look, when you have emails that are where you have corporations asking Hunter for influence, to use his influence on the company's behalf, you have to ask, well, what influence are they talking about? Okay, you can put 2 and 2 together, when Joe, for example, forces out a prosecutor. And then eventually we find emails where there's a relationship between the company and Hunter, where the company is asking Hunter for influence on their behalf. You can say, okay, well, maybe it wasn't just Joe forcing out a prosecutor who was corrupt. Maybe that was the corrupt act right there. And simply because the rebuttal is, well, that was US foreign policy says, a whole bunch of people who side with Joe Biden, an appeal to authority is not a defense of what he did. Even when he was talking, Joe, the bureaucrats or the officials, the government officials in the country being invaded now, under Joe's watch, they told him, hey, you don't have that authority. And then he said, call President Obama. So if everybody knew that was foreign policy, it certainly wasn't the country that we're talking about now. So those officials didn't know that Joe was acting on behalf of US foreign policy, forcing on a prosecutor. Okay. That's just one example. Okay, just one example. The reason I'm bringing up Lauren Boebern and Marjorie Taylor Greene is because whereas I don't like, especially with Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't admire or appreciate the lack of awareness pertaining to how media is going to react or perhaps some baggage on social media. So I don't have Twitter. I don't have Facebook. But she said bizarre things. Again, that's an issue, like a public relations issue. So in terms of public relations, she could act more like Rand Paul, for example, or Ron Johnson, or Jim Jordan. Okay. They tried to get Jim Jordan on things that they're guilty of. But again, like they're investigating Matt Gaetz, what they do is level investigations when they can't find something stupid that you said on social media. Anyway, my point is Marjorie Taylor Greene, although poor on public relations, is exactly the type of Republican along with Lauren Gilbert. And Rand Paul, Jim Jordan, Ron Johnson. I mean, Rand Paul, for example, will impeach Biden, investigate Hunter and government officials. But he doesn't have the public relations issues. Okay. Barbara and Greene, however, are very vocal. In a certain respect. They're very good in pushing what Republicans should be pushing, which is investigation of very corrupt Democrats and Democrats who are defended by an entire media apparatus. Look, you had half the electorate vote for Trump. Okay. You ask yourself if you've stumbled upon this if you're a wonderful, morally superior, highly educated Democrat, who is appalled by Truth Rob, and you think that he's so bad and horrible and you've disowned all your friends and family? You don't know anyone who votes for Trump because you've purged yourself of the unclean people who are Trump heirs. Here's why half the electorate will vote for Trump. And here's why I appreciate people like Rand Paul, Ron Johnson, Jim Jordan, and I do appreciate what like Lauren Bluebird. And in terms of the investigations with Marjorie Taylor Greene, is what they're doing in Congress in terms of holding Democrats accountable. You have corruption in the form of emails, voicemails, hundreds of millions of dollars in deals very different from Kushner, and Ivanka Kushner had $1.8 billion in his family. He was rich already. Okay, so he took a pay cut, according to Forbes, to join Trump's administration. Hunter and Joe were not rich. They went from not being wealthy at all. I think Joe had a net worth of $100,000. And so that was like one of his selling points in Congress to then having $10 million. Well, there's an email within hundreds emails that says he gives 10% to the big man. Okay. 10%, referring to Joe Biden, the vice president now president. Now you have Tony Boo Boo Lenski, the former business partner, you have the computer repair store owner. The emails are legitimate, they are incriminating. They show a clear quid pro quo pay to play schemes. Businesses are going to Hunter for access to the United States government or beneficial treatment, and they're getting business deals. Okay. You have a company that was sold that worked with the US government to acquire strategic petroleum reserves that at one point in China that at one point worked with Hunter's company. That's a problem. The Washington Post says, well, there's no connection at all. It's just a commodity. The Washington Post says, oil is a commodity, then why aren't we buying oil from if it's just a commodity from Moscow? That's right. The entire planet is bracing for an embargo. And when they all shut off Russian oil and gas, these are commodities, right? See, they don't use the logic, they're so obsessed with turning themselves into these gigantic pretzels. Defending Democratic Party corruption. Same with Uranium One deal. Uranium is a commodity, well, now it's through the roof. It's the highest, it's the most expensive it's ever been. And guess who has a monopoly on that? Countries like the country that was allowed Russia to purchase at 1.20% of U.S. uranium capacity after millions was given to the foundation building his foundation. The question: why is all this money being transferred to Democrats, their foundations, or to their businesses? Okay, you have to ask that because if the reverse were true, they would definitely have already indicted Trump. Okay. You can't have all these financial transactions that are deemed suspicious emails actually showing like not just the business relationship, but a political relationship. Voicemails with Joe saying he knows what Hunter is doing. And he's in the clear light, and so he lied to the American people. Joe did not. The Democrats or media care. Okay, like Joe Hunter. Hillary's lies or grandiose top-secret intelligence on private servers. Could you imagine if Trump had private servers? He would say that he's communicating directly with Vladimir and giving, and his marching orders are being sent via email. I mean, could you imagine? And then with Comey as just you know what? It's just convenience when Democrats investigate Hillary, for example, or the federal government now is investigating Hunter. And the difference that special counsel Durham is different, but when Democrats get investigated generally, what takes place is a cover-up. The investigation is a public relations ploy. There's actually criminal activity there. But you know what? We couldn't find any intent. Oopsie, so there was no intent, so we're not going to charge Clinton. By the way, I want to Hillary Trump 2024, Hillary DeSantis 2024. Okay, but so they're not going to. That's a public relations show where we investigate. We found nothing. Or we investigated? We found no intent. We investigated. We couldn't find anything with Trump. They investigate. So there's crimes that they didn't cover up or just say they can't really find anything, just to get people to stop asking questions. That's the purpose of investigating Democrats. When Democrats investigate themselves. When they investigate Trump, it's good to get everyone who doesn't like him, former officials who want to salvage their careers, to testify all this gossip, and then there's some crime that he's done. We'll find out soon. Okay, not like their specific crimes or top-secret intelligence on private servers, specific crimes with 150 banking transactions that are deemed suspicious and emails pertaining to those banking transactions showing quid pro quo relationships, specific crimes. You don't have to work hard to find them with Trump. One day and we're gonna find he threw his dinner at the wall and commandeered a limo. And he said that he knew what he was saying was false. So therefore, if he knew what he was saying, there's a statute that says if you know what you're doing is wrong, that you've committed a crime. So that's the way they roll. But anyway, Laurenberg marching Taylor Greene, you need more Republicans like those Republicans now. For example, in Arizona, there you have parents and others, they're promoting Kari Lake's. They're promoting Kari Lake's challenger. She's down in the post, she's not gonna win that primary. Okay, then you have people like, publicly look. Herschel Walker is down to Warnock. It's like, well, Herschel Walker is a legend in Georgia. Herschel Walker will win. He's a legend in Georgia. If you're in Georgia right now and you in the comments section, do you think that Herschel Walker is actually down to Warnock? If you're in Georgia, you're watching this channel. Do you not think that Herschel Walker is not just a legendary football player, Heisman Trophy winner, Georgia Bulldog, icon legend, but he's also a great businessman. He's also, he was in MMA for a second too. He's an inspiration in terms of a lot of the things that he's done. And he supported Donald Trump when it wasn't popular to do so. Or at least, he didn't care about the backlash. Media is like a literal extension. They're a literal extension of the Democratic Party. Democrats don't exist as a political party, unless you have Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, MSNBC, CNN, The Washington Post, The New York Times of Vanity Fair, Esquire at The Atlantic, New Yorker, New York Magazine, Time Magazine, Rolling Stone, Daily Beast, BuzzFeed. Vice Mothers, John's donation tells me if there's a Trump supporter in one of those publications or cable stations or all of Twitter, social media algorithms, tell me if there's a Trump supporter there yet you have half the electorate voting for Trump. Tell me if there's one out just a Trump supporter that can write an article or that can defend the man in any of named 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4 publications, including cable stations. Tell me if there's one person who supports Trump. Okay, There aren't any Trump supporters there? And so that's the issue. The issue is we have a media that will not allow an actual debate or discussion, discourse as to why people vote Trump, and that's one of the reasons why I'm saying Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Gilbert in terms of the investigations that they're pushing. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Give me your thoughts below.